Welcome to That Sunna Feeling, the podcast where beauty meets ambition, hosted by Brandi and Shannelle, the founders of Sunna.
Here we peel back the layers of the beauty industry, offering insider tips, business strategies, and personal stories that inspire and educate you on the path to success in your spray tanning, teeth whitening, and beauty business.
Whether you're dreaming of launching your own venture, looking to expand your revenue streams, or simply curious about what goes into our products, we're here to guide you each step of the way.
From the fundamentals of picking your very first spray tan machine to building an empire from the ground up.
That Sunna Feeling is your go-to source for business motivation and knowledge.
Hi, Shannelle.
Hi, Brandi.
Welcome back, everybody. Today we are continuing on with our Sunna Success Method series. Just a reminder, you can get $100 off with code SSM100. This is the business training that you need to elevate and really start taking your business real serious. And you're going to learn a ton on how to expand and grow your business. And one of the modules in that course is on branding, taught by Shannelle. And today she's going to give you a little sneak peek into some of the concepts that you will learn. And you're going to learn some amazing stuff from this podcast as well. So I'm going to pass it over to Shannelle. I'm just here for moral support, might add a couple stories. But really,
well, let's tell them what actually happened. So 3 minutes ago, Brandi said, "Do you need me to do this podcast with you?" I'm like, "No, I think I'm good. She's like, "Well, I think I should do it with you. I'll just be there." And then she's like, "Because you're not going to elaborate. Like, there's so much more to tell." And it's true. Like, if you know me, I just want to get to the point. Just go straight to it, where Brandi wants to.
And you're really good at it.
For sure. But it's super funny. So Brandi's here because she wants to make sure I don't leave anything out and leave you guys with enough information. And this isn't a 5-minute podcast. So if you really enjoy this podcast and it's a bit long, that's why.
Okay. We could talk for hours on branding though. Let's be serious.
No, I know. This could be a lot of different episodes. And I think this episode specifically is talking from my own mistakes. Obviously, if you don't know, Brandi and I have an agency where we also help people with branding, and it's a lot of rebranding and naming. And it's just kind of the same thing comes up over and over again. So I'm hoping by you listening to this podcast, whether you're looking to rebrand or you're starting a business, whether it is a tanning business, a beauty business, any kind of business, these mistakes and tips and tricks help you with naming and branding. So,
yes. Okay.
Let's start at the beginning. So when I started this business, I always just thought it was going to be a side business. So I didn't really think too much about the name. And at the time, the product I was using, it really was the only clean product out there. And there was a girl that I'd seen in the USA that her name was Organic Glow. And I thought that was such a cool name, but I wanted to obviously be different. So I wanted to go straight to the point, and my name was Organic Tan, and it was all one word. And that is how I started. And it was very obvious of what I was doing.
Which there's some pros to that. There's a lot of pros to that, but we'll get into that.
A lot of pros to that. But what happened is when I started to grow and I wanted to sell retail, and people also wanted me to train them. They wanted to start their own organic tans, and I ended up franchising, but we don't do that anymore, but that's something that we used to do. I had to trademark, and you cannot trademark that name. And I also wanted to start to get into different lines like our teeth whitening, and that name would not have supported that. So quickly what happens when you start a business is you're thinking just one thing, you're going to focus on one thing. And I think we're all guilty of that, but then what happens is other doors start opening, other opportunities start presenting themselves. And if your name is putting you in a box and pigeonholing you, you can't expand, or you have to then rebrand when you're wanting to launch something else, and it's more money, more work. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I think I was 3 years in, and I had to rebrand. So that time I had to think really clearly about, okay, what is my vision? Like a big, big, big vision. I had to think really, really big. And for me, I just knew I wanted a name that I wasn't going to have a problem trademarking, but also that I could do anything with. It didn't mean anything. So Sunna, now we have SunnaTan, Sunna Smile, Sunna School. We did have Sunna Pure. So really you can do anything with that name and it would just work. It's all about branding.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of power in a name, but there's also like not a lot of power in a name because it's really all about the power that you give that name. So
exactly.
It's, the brand is not just the name. There's a million other things that go into it that Shannelle's going to talk about, because I just on the weekend, we were chatting a little bit, Shannelle, about books and stuff that we've read and business stories. And one of those books that I've read is Shoe Dog, by the founder of Nike. And Nike is a perfect example of a name that, really didn't mean much. I don't want to get into the story because I'm going to butcher it. But essentially, Nike is I think a Greek god or something, and he was literally at like a museum, and Nike was there, and okay, that's the name. So it didn't overthink it, then gave it to a graphic designer, and then they did the swoosh, right? So the whole entire concept and the brand of Nike has nothing to do with the name, right?
No, and that's any strong brand. That's any strong brand. Like it doesn't, create that by everything else that you're going to do in the coming years. So I wouldn't get too caught up. And now in a world where there's like so much, like in the tanning world, let's just say, there's so much bears, there's so much nudes, there's blush, there's all these names that a lot of people have used that are amazing names. But when, there's 50 of them on Instagram, when you're trying to find that business, that can also work against you. So that's number one. I just want you to not overthink your name. You can always be, let's just say you're Sunna and then you're a tanning business. Let's just say you could be Sunna, but it could say, your everything up below it could say, spray tanning this area, airbrush tanning this area, creating like, services in this area. Like you can also do so much with SEO and on Instagram that doesn't have to be just your name. So just don't overthink your name. Also, like I know we'll do these branding where we get really deep, like we name it after their grandmother or a child, which is awesome if the name makes sense and it means something to you. It's awesome, but you also don't need to. Like Sunna has zero meaning to me. Zero, except I kind of liked how it spelt. When we looked it up, there was no trademarking of it. So there's no big story with Sunna that I'm going to tell you that's going to make you cry. Nothing like that. So don't overthink.
I love that. I just
don't
honestly
overthink your name.
What you did was you like opened up you just Googled goddesses, right? Goddesses,
sun goddesses.
Yeah. And Sunna was one of them.
Yeah. So, okay, now I want to talk about my other mistake. So when I branded Organic Tan Sunna, I was going through a turquoise phase. Okay. I don't know what phase you're in your life right now. Maybe you're into nudes. Maybe I don't know what you're into. But I was in a turquoise phase. Like my husband says, now I can't even look at turquoise. I had like custom turquoise curtains. I had pillows. I love to wear turquoise. I love to wear turquoise jewelry. Like it was a phase for me. And I loved my branding for a few years, for sure. I loved it. But I quickly did not love my branding. But what happened is I had so much marketing material out there. I had, labels, packaging at that time that I couldn't change my branding. So it wasn't until, it just got to be too much and I made a decision, and that was a very expensive decision. A good decision, but it was just to rebrand, Sunna more like just the whole look of it and just make it more timeless. We have one color and we use black and white. And that is something, if you can do, is going to serve you for years to come, because you can always bring in color in your brand. You can have secondary colors. You can do branding shoots seasonally. If you're inspired, you can always bring color into your brand. You can always bring texture into your brand. But if all of that color and texture and busyness is your logo and is your branding colors, you can never get rid of that. Without, completely rebranding and changing everything. So just think timeless. And even in the font you pick for your logo, you might really love script font, but are you going to love script font in 5 years? And are you going to be able to read that if you put it on swag? Or is someone going to be able to read that if it's on really small on a business card? Just these little details that you have to think about. So simple to me is always better. If you don't have a budget to hire a graphic designer, there's so many ways, and we go into that in the module, in the course. But there's so many ways that you can get a logo made without spending a ton of money if you don't have the budget for a graphic designer. But that would be, I would look for timeless brands to get you inspired by for your logo.
Yeah, I think what you're really touching is not being a trendy brand. Like you can follow the trends and your brand can be a part of a trend, but you can use, props and vibes and feeling and visual, like all those things, colors, they can be textures, like you said, can be trendy.
Yeah. Cause you'll always be behind. Like, Brandi and I love to look at Summer Fridays just because their e-com is amazing, right? They're changing their website constantly. So many awesome different apps that we like to see that they're using and themes and just seeing what they're doing next. But, that brand, you'll never be able to be as quick as a brand like that. So you can take inspiration from, these bigger brands and put them into your seasonal photo shoots. But by the time, you've done that photo shoot, they're already like 2 ahead of you. So being timeless is just going to serve you so much better.
Yeah. I guess future-proofing your brand, which you've talked about already, but trademarking, can you dive a little bit deeper into that and what you mean by you couldn't trademark organic tan?
So you can't trademark two names. So one, you can't trademark a name that's already been trademarked, obviously, but you also can't trademark 2 common names. So like organic, for example, and tan are 2 common names. So even if no one had that name, they weren't going to let me trademark it. Or if I was, it was going to be a huge process, expensive one. And at the end of the day, after 5 years, I might not even get the approval. So when you're wanting to grow and scale, I mean, that's a big deal. So I think it's just super important to just pick something that, you can buy the domain from. You can, even if you're changing letters or whatever you're doing, buy a domain from, get a domain from Instagram that you want. All of those are available to you. You have a good chance of trademarking and not running into issues with your name.
Yeah, really good.
And
tip.
Also
really good
hiring someone to help you. There's also websites which we can share below. I can't remember exactly what they are now, but we can share them in the notes that you can check and start your trademarking process that way too and search yourself.
Yes, which is great. Yeah, just start taking a look. Just really, I think the big thing is that taking your business seriously, and it starts with the name. When we talked about how, there's not a lot of power in the name, but there is a lot of power in the name. It is just really about setting up your business to thinking bigger. And like Shannelle, I think I really want to hone in on that, is that when Shannelle started, it was just like, okay, I'm just going to start this spray tan business. I'm going to tan my friends and my family. And I'm going to make some money on the side. And I'm going to do this with my 8,000 other jobs that I have. But, and then it just kind of snowballed and grew and grew and grew and grew. And then it's just like problem after problem after problem that she ran into because of the growth and because of her branding and the naming and all these things that became really expensive. And so, if she would have just kind of taken that time, if she would have listened to this podcast back then, there's
Totally.
such an opportunity for all of you guys that are starting out that you can really, the power in that name and just that simple thought process of something that's just broader and bigger and that you could do anything, absolutely anything with it. Because one thing I do know about women in business is that we are multi-passionate and that we do have a lot of different and our passions and that our brain and our wheels are turning at all times. So really set yourself up for success. And that's what we want to encourage you to do here at Sunna.
Yeah. And doors just open for you. Like when you start a business and you're open to it, you just meet people, your brain, is always starts to think about new opportunities, and you just don't want to put yourself in a situation where you can't work fast and pivot fast and add something great to your business.
This was powerful. And I will say, inside the SSM course, the whole entire module on how to get inspiration, where to get inspiration, how to figure out, your vibe, and then all the technical aspects of, like Shannelle said, creating your own kind of logo or a DIY route or all the different types of options. They go into herself, and our graphic designer actually is in that course too. So you get to learn so much content, and we hope that this, I think, inspired you. And yeah, we can't wait to see you guys inside the course.
Thanks for listening.